Hello and welcome to the Sonic Cinema podcast. My name is Brian Scuttle and thank you for joining us at www.sonic-cinema.com. For this episode, I decided to interview an actor who has sent me requests for about 20 films now, mostly short films. He's based out of New York and his name is Timothy Cox. Some of the films I've reviewed that you may have seen of his are Hellbent, Total Performance, and Mail Time. And it was my pleasure to talk to him on a Saturday night about his career, about his life, and what it's like to be an actor. So please welcome Timothy Cox. One of the things that has happened on Sonic Cinema over the past 10 years now has been filmmakers and actors and producers sending me movies with interest in getting them reviewed, whether it was a movie they were in, movie they were made, or just something they wanted to bring to my attention that somebody else made. And one of those people who've been, without doubt, the most prolific is an actor from New York who's been in or associated with at least 16 movies that I've reviewed like this over the years. His name is Timothy Cox, and I'm pleased to be talking to him tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure.
Okay, well, one of the things, I did a print interview with you last year, and I tried to, when I was thinking of the questions for this interview session, I didn't really want to go over too many I didn't want to do too much of the same thing that I already went over, but the first thing I would like to ask you is, when did you realize that you wanted to do acting for a living?
Well, I guess that first moment I got on stage was probably in the 8th grade. This was weird. I don't know any school that has ever done this. I'm sure they don't do it now. They actually had auditions for the play during the school day. So me and everyone in the school were just auditioning for the play to get out of class. I was auditioning to get out of math class, which I hated. And never thinking in a million years that I would get cast. I never had aspirations to be an actor. I had a typical, upbringing as a kid. I wanted to play sports and things like that. Wasn't very good at it. And I got cast in the male lead. It was a musical version of like an O. Henry story, The Gift of Magi. And from that, it was really the first time I heard that audience laughter, that live reaction. And I thought, wow, I kind of like that. And then, when I get to high school and, you do theater and things like that. And it was probably college when, and even then I was playing character roles and like, Shakespeare pieces and things like that. And I thought, this is it. I'm an actor. It was never, I thought like, well, no doubt about it. The moment that, the more I did it, the more I just felt, well, I'm an actor.
Right. Okay.
And been doing it ever since.
Well, tell me a little bit about your background, just in general, sort of like your life before and after you started acting.
Sure. I was born in Philadelphia. My parents, who are now retired, they're in Ocean City, Maryland now. I have 3 brothers. And I am probably the only person in my entire family, not only who has done anything in the performing arts, but anything even related to public speaking. And I was always kind of a ham as a kid, movies have always been a part of my life. So my brothers joke now that I was an actor years before I even decided to become one. And I had a pretty typical childhood growing up. I did the majority of my growing up in Wilmington, Delaware. And, I played sports. I was a pretty good mimic of, trying to do, like the Joe Montana pose and things like that. But I was a horrible athlete. And I think in the basketball team, I was a professional bench rider. But no, I was an okay student. I think before the days of like ADD, I would be a student that the teachers would say, "Oh, Tim's a great student." Just every once in a while, he drifts into his imagination. So, but when I got into acting and when I got into the theater, and when you're memorizing scripts and things like that, I became a better student because when you're memorizing, of course, it's a completely different type of memorizing than historical facts and things like that. But you train your brain in such a way that things just kind of started to stick with me, and so I became a better student as a result of becoming an actor. And after high school, I went to a small liberal arts college in Marietta, Ohio, which is close to Parkersburg, West Virginia. I went and auditioned for a scholarship there and won the scholarship. And for the first time, from Wilmington, Delaware to Marietta, Ohio, it's about 600 miles away. So I was really on my own for the first time. Of course, my parents and my family have always been very supportive in every possible way. But going away to college like that was, I'd highly recommend it. If you are going to go to college, go as far away from home as you can because you learn about where you're going to fall on your face a lot, and you don't have that safety blanket of just being able to go home whenever you want. So I learned a lot during those years, and of course I was able to get on stage and learn a lot as an actor. But I was able to grow as a person, which I think that's important in the development of an actor as well.
Yeah, and I was a music major myself, so I know just how important the arts can be as far as being able to improve our capacity to learn, as well as getting ourselves ready for just more critical thinking as well as intellectual stimulation.
Oh, sure. You grow up pretty fast. You grow up, and you make mistakes, but that's when you want to make them. And of course. And so I graduated from college, and I went back home to Delaware, and I worked for maybe about a year and a half, saving money. And then I was working at a community theater in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, and I was kind of tinkering with the idea of moving to New York. Because when I graduated from college, I had done all of this theater, but it never occurred to me as graduation day came, oh my God, what am I going to do? I knew I wanted to be an actor, but I knew that Los Angeles at the time just wasn't something I thought about because I didn't think that I was going to do anything associated with film or television because, I'm 5'6.5". I'm a supporting actor. I've been playing dad, since I was in my 20s. So it immediately you often think that I'm a stage actor. If I was going to do, Shakespeare and Chekhov and Ibsen and things like that, I'd be a happy guy for the rest of my life doing, putting on fake noses and wigs and things like that. And so that's basically how I thought about it. And then I moved to New York in February of 2001, just maybe a couple of months before 9/11 happened, and I moved out to Astoria, Queens, and hit the ground running and, auditioning, doing a lot of theater. And I would say maybe for the first almost 10 years at New York, I did exclusively theater with an occasional student film that would kind of creep in, but I was never happy with the experiences because when you come from the theater, if you're doing a comedy or something like that, you get your instantaneous laughter, and then you come back and you do the show again. Whereas with film, it's the repetition and a lot of kind of monotonous, a lot of sitting around waiting for lighting, for sound, and all of that. So at first it was an adjustment to deal with, but now, in the last 5 or 6 years, it's really been almost exclusively film. I just started rehearsals on a play, and it's going to be the first play that I've done in about 2 years. But I love both. But it's amazing just how I guess I'm a kind of guy that who rides the wave, go wherever the wind takes him. And over the last couple of years, the wind has pushed me more towards film work, and especially short films and web series and things like that. And just try to keep busy as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that, what would you? I was going to ask you some of the differences between film and TV, and we've kind of already, and in the written interview, I already asked you sort of like which one, which I believe I sort of asked you which do you prefer, film or theater, and I think it was about 50-50 with you, or
yeah,
I mean it just kind of depends.
Still there, yeah.
What would
50,
you?
50.
Yeah, what would you say has doing theater and doing film, other than the frequency, has anything changed in doing theater for the past 15 years or so versus doing film for the past 15 years, other than sort of the frequency of it?
You become a different actor. I think, I remember, when I would first, I would do theater in college, or when I first come to New York, you would get just so excited that I'm a speed demon. So I would just like breeze through lines, and, and sometimes people would be like, you can't really understand what you're saying. So now, I mean, I've tried consciously, to try to be in a place of complete relaxation. And I'm a much different actor than I was 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And that's the beauty of like doing film or theater, is that I've grown. And hopefully, I mean, the wonderful thing about this profession is that it's a profession where you never stop learning. I mean, I think John Gielgud was in his 90s, and somebody asked him the question that is just, they always, you paint yourself to the corner, like, what is acting? And he said, I'll be damned if I know. I think that's why we keep doing it. I mean, you never reach a point where no actor is ever 100% happy with a performance, or they always wish they could have another rehearsal, another take, another what have you. And that's kind of the fun in doing it. I've learned to really appreciate and enjoy the process. And it is a process, and it's a kind of, I mean, I was working on a movie in Times Square the other day, and we're filming right in the heart of Times Square with all the noise and all the characters. And 15 years ago, I would have been like, you get nervous and kind of jittery. Now it's all just kind of like that it's going to disturb and distract you. Mm-hmm. Now it's just part of the job, and you have to kind of block out a lot of this outside elements and just focus on the work. And really, a lot of that comes from the energy of the set, the other actors, and things like that. So,
well,
makes it fun.
Yeah. What exactly is what is the what sort of entails the sort of the life of an actor? I mean, we've all seen in like film and TV and stuff like that before, the cliche of, oh well, it's like working at a diner to and going occasionally on auditions and stuff like that. What is that sort of?
I wish I could work at a diner. I wish I could. In movies and things like that, I mean, of course, there's the old thing where someone would come to town and they would immediately get a job as a waiter or a bartender.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very Hollywoodized version of things. I mean, now I think you need a full-blown, at least in New York or Chicago or any place like that, you need a full-blown, like, distinguished resume to work as a bartender. You got to go to school for it. I mean, for the last 10 years, I have, in between jobs, I have worked as a tour guide in New York and in D.C. And, I mean, I'll be in D.C. for the inauguration. And I tensed as well. I mean, I've done every horrible, awful office job, I think, on the planet. And because I'm not a good bartender. I was a waiter back in Delaware, and I was terrible at it. And but the typical life, it's kind of one of those things where you're a freelancer, Now,
Mm-hmm.
what that means is that um, you have to find something to pay the bills, whether that's temping, marketing and stuff like that, whether that's bartending, whether that's tour guide work, because there's a lot of times where you're an actor. You might work a lot, but it's very hard to make a living at it.
Right.
So, but for me, it's the nice thing about tour guide work is that in the spring and often in the fall as well, I make enough money. And of course, my wife is a freelancer as well. She's a nanny. She's a videographer. She's a photographer. She has a side business. So, we definitely it is a little bit of a living check to check, but we don't feel like poor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, we're not. I mean, it's really, the life of an actor. If you can cut out things that you don't need. In New York, if you don't need a car, don't have one. Like, you don't have to worry about insurance, gas, tickets, things like that. So that's an expense that goes right out the window right there. All of that, of course, will change if you get married and you have a family and things like that. But it's really it's a life of not extravagance, but you kind of just it's an adventurous life. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the way I can do it. There's a great line, and I don't know if 10 years ago, I believe, there's a great line in the film and play, The Dresser. To be an actor, you have to give up what some people would call a life. I kind of like to amend that and say what people consider a conventional life. You go to work, you do the 9 to 5, you that kind of thing. Actors do that.
Mm-hmm.
They just do it. They just do it a little differently. You might have down periods there, and you have to roll up your sleeves and do temp jobs or catering jobs or some stuff that you may not want to do. But we there's a motto in my house with my wife and I. It's called struggle and survival, and it's kind of like it's like the Cox crest.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how we. You go out every day. I mean, ideally, every actor would love to be able to wake up tomorrow and go to a film set or go to a Broadway stage and rehearse and get paid and make nice money. I would love that. The reality is that there are more actors out there, and not just in New York, but everywhere, than there are jobs. And the casting directors would love to be able. Every actor goes into a room, they're on the side of that table, and they would love to be able to give you a job. It's just there's not enough jobs for all of the actors. So, I mean, I keep my chin up because when I guess it's a supporting actor mentality. When you're a supporting actor, that next job is always around the corner.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are some of your favorite films? What have your favorite films have been over the years? You said you basically watched movies from a very early age.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, it's funny. With the 75th anniversary of Citizen Kane coming up, there was something that a friend of mine on Facebook were saying, and of course, Citizen Kane is considered the best film or best American film, I should say, of all time. And it's a marvelous film. I mean, of course, the innovation. I applaud him, Orson Welles, for all he went through in making the film.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the movie that is just absolutely perfect in every possible way, from the cinematography to the acting to the music to the coloring, it's The Godfather. And from the moment I first saw that movie, which when my parents would go out to dinner or something like that, my uncle Mike would, he'd come and he'd babysit me and my youngest brother, and we used to have the old RCA video disc.
Mm-hmm.
And he would watch The Godfather. And I would hear the opening scene to the movie, and I thought, what is that? And then I kind of sneaked down and looked, and I'd hear, the first time I'd hear Brando, and I thought, who is this guy who's talking in that, weird voice? And then as I got older, I would watch more and more and more and more and more. And to me, it's just a perfect movie. And it's kind of one of those movies that, if you watch, if it's on the television, you're like, oh, I'll watch for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then you end
Mm-hmm.
up watching the whole thing. And then the ultimate is that if you find out if two is coming on, which is the rarity among sequels.
Yeah.
But and Casablanca, I mean, anything that Bogart did, or Spencer Tracy, or Jack Lemmon, or Catherine Hepburn, or anything that those guys did. I'm a big fan of Brit as well. The English. I mean, like Alec Guinness and all the Ealing comedies, like
Mm-hmm.
Kind Hearts and Coronets, or anything that Albert Finney has done, or Tom Courtenay, or Vanessa Redgrave. All of that to me has been like my education. Like back in the day, when American movie classics before Breaking Bad and Mad Men and The Walking Dead, it was just the old movie channel.
Yeah.
And so what they would do, they would have, like, if it was Jimmy Cagney's birthday, they would have like 5 or 6 of his films in a row. And so they would have that for him, or for Audrey Hepburn, or Fred Astaire, or anyone like that. And that was how, like, in many ways, of course, I went to school for acting, but that was like, I went to the University in Hackman, or, Albert Finney, or Al Guinness. And so a lot of the greatest, tips I've gotten from acting has just been from watching and working with other actors.
Mm-hmm. What current actors are you probably do you admire the most? Do you enjoy watching the most?
Right now, and he is the guy that I think he is this my generation's like Gene Hackman, and that's Bryan Cranston. Bryan Cranston.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading his wonderful book right now, A Life in Part, and a lot of, I mean, there are a lot of parallels, like a lot of like the upbringing, and just the struggle. I mean, he started out working on a soap opera in 1983, and I remember, like seeing him pop up on shows like Matlock and Murder, She Wrote, and then Seinfeld, but it was really Malcolm in the Middle. And then I remember walking through the subway and seeing the poster for this TV show called Breaking Bad, and I thought, that's the Malcolm in the Middle guy. And I thought it has to be a comedy.
Yeah.
It has some comedic elements, but I mean, and talk about like, I mean, we could talk for hours about that show, and I think he just turned 60. He is the living proof that if you stick with it, you work hard, you stick with it, that you never know what can happen. So, I mean, I think in the history of Hollywood, like Gene Hackman was 40 when he got the French Connection. Morgan Freeman, I think, was 49 when Driving Miss Daisy and Street Smart, when he blew ahead, and of course when Charles Bronson, I think, was 50 when Death Wish. I mean, he became a star. You just never know. But Bryan Cranston right now is the guy who's just killing it in every, like, on film, on stage, and in television. And like, good for him, because you want great actors to succeed. And the same thing, like whenever I see someone like a Kathy Bates or a Patricia Clarkson, or the actress who was in Sarah Paulson, who was just everywhere. And like, it's just wonderful. It's like all of these actors, all who can play leads, but also they're really made their mark as character supporting actors. J.K. Simmons as well. J.K. Simmons, I remember 25 years ago, he used to do an ad on the old AMC. And it was in like a radio, like an old time radio thing, and he was like the radio announcer. And and of course, like, I saw him on stage in the 1992 revival of Guys Golf, Benny South Street, and like, guys that you just know, like, God, like, and you just remember him. And then of course, like Law and Order and Oz and all of the variety of characters. So, I mean, I'm like a champion for actors, and kind of like, because we're all out there looking, we just want the same thing, just to be able to do good work with good people, and maybe make enough where we can survive.
Well, I mean, one thing I've noticed over the years, I mean, it's always fun to watch one of the movies that you send me with you in it, because I mean it comes very naturally for you with the roles you play. I mean, like you said, you do tend to play. There is some similarity with a lot of the characters, but at the same time, I mean, it's just very entertaining to watch you uh, play in so many different types of movies. One movie that I reviewed last year, Total Performance, was one that I reviewed very highly, that
Oh
you had
yeah.
sent me. I think probably my favorite one that you've sent me this year was that the short film Hellbent.
You
And
love Hellbent, yeah.
yeah, and I did kind of want to go over I kind of wanted to ask you sort of just what the experience was working on some of the movies that you've sent me over, over the years, and in particular some of the ones you sent me this year. So what was it? So what was it like working with Hellbent? What did you think when you first saw the script and all that?
The script was kind of was fun, and I gravitate to those kind of supporting parts. I mean, to me, supporting character roles, I equate that with like being the sixth man on the basketball team. You
Mm-hmm.
come in, score your points, the clutch player, and then you get out of there. And that character, I mean, is a variation on a character I've sort of played before, but there's a little bit of like an actor, you can't resist a role where you get to be kind of a jerk. Like you just get to, you get to be kind of the boss.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny, that guy. I mean, I was channeling Jason Robards and All the President's Men, but I think even he'd make Ben Bradley blush a little bit. So it was a fun show. I just worked one day on the film, and it was very, pleasant. Cast crew were very, very nice, and the film has gotten a really nice reaction, and over the months that it's been released.
Mm-hmm. And one of the other movies that you sent me, you actually have a leading role in, was Mail Time.
Oh,
And
that was
what?
fun.
Yeah. What was, and it's a silent role. I mean, it's all, it's like there's very little dialogue in the movie whatsoever. I don't think you say a word in it, if I
No,
remember
it's
correctly.
really when Sebastian Carrasco was the writer director of the film. I had submitted for the part, and he called me and wanted to cast me, and I think there was a scheduling thing, and he really wanted me for this part, and he had said it's a silent project, and I like silent projects like that. I've done a lot of them recently because one, they are really really good acting exercises because I mean if you watch countless movies, there are actors who can say a line of dialogue in a look or just like the eyes. I mean, on film, everything is all in the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can do that, it just makes you a more well-rounded actor. And I happen to like the idea for the project. Like anything having to do with magic is fun.
Mm-hmm.
And Sebastian's energy, Bernardo Salazar, who was the DP on the project, they worked really well together. We got to shoot in Brooklyn, and and it's amazing like how people react to certain projects because we shot that in just in a morning and an afternoon, and put it together, and people really responded to it in a very positive way.
Mm-hmm. And another movie that you sent me earlier this year was a short film called Dirty Books, which was
Yes.
another really entertaining one. And sort of along the line, your character's sort of along the lines of Hellbent, where you play sort of the disciplinarian and the sort of hard boss in a way. I mean, you're a principal at a school in that one, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah. But he now that was an example. That was a really, really solid script that Zach Lapierre wrote. And the thing that struck me most about the script was that it was about a teenager that, to me, really spoke like a teenager. And a
Mm-hmm.
teenager, I mean, especially now, I mean, I can only imagine how David Noah's character would react to everything with the election. But it was it was a really smart script. And the thing, at first, the character of Dr. Bradley kind of looked like the typical kind of stern disciplinarian, but I think there's a little part of him, and you see that in the end of the film, hopefully, that he kind of admires Dave for the chutzpah, and that at that final moment, that he just admires that, wow, it's nice to see a kid who's fighting for something important. I mean, either it's not about whether he wins or loses. It's the fact that he's fighting for what he wants, and I really connected with the script and with the characters, and that was another one. It was Ian Everhart, Michael Pooch, Matt Randini, and Zach Lafriere of Pitchfork Films. They were really they were great. Just very organized. They all went to school together. They all worked together so well. Like there's that, to me, like a great set. It's like there's a seamless quality. There's like it's very laid back and relaxed. It's fun. It almost doesn't feel like work. It just feels like you're just sitting there with a couple of people, and you happen to be making a movie. And to me, I am a firm believer that you get the best work when you are in a state of relaxation and ease. And that was one of the highlights of last year. That Total Performance was one. Here Lies Joe was another one. Here Lies Joe, which has been, all three of them have been warmly received, and the parts in there, there was a lot of like variety in who the characters were. So I was thankful to have three really good character roles.
Yeah. Well, what do you have coming up in the future?
Well, I just wrapped a short film for actually Penelope Lawson, who directed Numb. It's a movie called Just Sing. It's about this is going to be fun. It's about a professional telegram singer. He has a huge passion for performance. And this poor guy, is played wonderfully by a wonderful actor named Ray Roy. And he has the worst day of his life. And, it's just like all of like the key questions of like his place in the universe. And I play an actor who used to also work at the Telegram Singer, who has then gone on to have a little success. And we bump into each other on the street, and the typical kind of awkwardness of like, when people who bump into each other, one who's offended and one who is kind of, standing still of where they've been. So just worked on that on Thursday, and that was a blast. Psychic Murder, which is I'm really looking forward to seeing this film. This is the movie I went to Baltimore to work on. It was written and directed by Brandon Block. And the best way I can describe this movie is that it's David Lynch territory, like very surreal, very it's comic, it's odd, it's dramatic, it's kind of mysterious. And what it's about a comic who, at this night at this comedy club, he's targeted by this kind of ruthless talent agent who I played. And it was the fans kind of wonder, is he going to make his career or his life? And it's a different kind of part for me because it's kind of, it's out there. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you and with other your brethren, your critic brethren, when it's ready. And I have another film that called And on That Day, and it's written and produced and directed by a New Jersey filmmaker, John Henry Soto, really one of the great energetic forces that I've met in the last couple of years. And I play kind of a boss. There's a gentleman in a real estate office who is retiring after 30 years, and he's an underappreciated guy, and people are, giving him his gold watch, and he just chooses on this day to say all of the things that we all wish that we could say in an office setting to people who have wronged us or anything like that. So Henry Packer, who's going to play the lead in that, he's going to be great. So we're going to be working on that, hopefully at the start of the new year. And then lastly, I have this play. It's called The Big Uncut Flick. I wish you were in the city to see it because I think you'd get a kick out of it. It's a company that I've worked with a couple of times over the years, Gracie Productions, and it is a parody of movies from the 1920s and 30s, especially movies like The Roaring Twenties and The Front Page and Angels with Dirty Faces. And so that's going to be going up at Theater Row Studios on 42nd Street for the first 3 weeks in December. And so I play like a police lieutenant in that, and I also play like kind of the bad guy mobster. So hopefully I'll try to channel Spencer Tracy and Pat O'Brien for the top role, and maybe a little Edward G. Robinson for the mobster. I mean, to say like dialogue, like that they would have back in those old Warner Brothers movies from the 20s and 30s. I mean, that's just an actor can't pass that up.
Oh no, I can't imagine why. Yeah, I mean, I definitely wish. I definitely wish I was in New York for that, and I'm definitely gonna be on the lookout for the movies that you mentioned because all of those projects sound pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I try to do. Like, you try to go out and you try to have as much variety in the kinds of projects. And I mean, I think I sent you Gary from accounting.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah,
but I definitely will be in the next week or two. So. Sure.
That's the project that I think I worked on that this past spring, and that was fun. And Shirality Films and TV Tours, I wrote like this really, really darkly comic script. So it was fun to do, and had a great group of actors. I mean, that's what you just want to stay busy as much as possible because to any actors out there, if you wait by the phone it's not going to happen. You have to be relentless. You have to, if you want to be an actor, you got to go out and you got to go get it. Because it's not an easy life, but how I've navigated through all of it and how I've done things. For me, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's definitely been a pleasure to watch all of the movies that you've seen over the years, whether I've loved them like Total Performance or Hellbent, or ones that it's like, I'm not quite enjoying this as much. But I mean, overall, it's.
And I think it's probably. I was sitting there trying to think. I think it's probably been about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it really has.
I've been sending.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, and that's the thing is, I mean, I'm sorry, hopefully I haven't sent you too many calls. But I mean, that's the light. I mean, Babe Ruth never batted us out. And,
oh yeah.
But and that's the thing is, I mean, when I send the movies out to critics and things like that, I mean, making a movie is hard enough. What I hope to accomplish by sending the movie out, I mean, whether the movie gets a positive or a negative reaction, I mean, obviously, John, you would love the positives. But the fact that the film is getting seen, because with Vimeo and YouTube, your doc, and social media, there are so many movies, shorts, and web series and things like that are out there.
Yeah.
That so many movies. I mean, of course, I can only imagine how many review requests that you get on a weekly basis. It's hard to keep up with all of them. I mean, and I try to. I mean, you build relationships with people over the years, and they become hopefully supporters, and not only champions of your work, but like I like to, like when I sent Numb for Penelope, because it's a movie that, like, this is a movie that needs to be seen because it's just, I mean, just impressive performances, the cinematography, I mean, everything, and that's like love. You want everyone to be successful and have and have support. I mean, now more than ever, we need more positive energy.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. And yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, no, I don't think there have been too many films that you've sent me where it's like, I wasn't that big a fan of it. It's like, And the thing is, it's like when it comes to movies, I tend to be I try to be a bit more optimistic. I take, I try to take the good with the bad objectively, and it's like what is working focus more on what is working about film as opposed to what is not working.
Sure.
And the fact of the matter is, whether requests like yours, sometimes they come in pretty fast and furious. Sometimes there's a bit of a lull, which is good because of the fact that I also have a full-time job. I also try to keep up with as many bigger movies that as I can, in addition to everything else that life encompasses.
Sure.
And but the fact of the matter is, it's like requests like yours, and I think I've said this in the other interviews that I've done with filmmakers this year for this, is it makes it's been extremely beneficial whether I like the movie or not, because of the fact that ultimately I'm seeing something new, and I'm seeing something that I wouldn't necessarily have had the opportunity to see, and short films are a big part of that. And so it's like it's a lot of short films, and it's like I've really enjoyed getting to watch so many of those, and just seeing the way different stories get told on screen, and just the different type of stories that get told on screen, and it's just been really fun. I mean, I definitely I definitely thank you for the time you've put in sending them out, and I mean, I hopefully I can speak for the other critics and say that it's definitely something positive for us as opposed to watching the same type of movies that Hollywood puts out day in and day out. And no, I really appreciate it, and I definitely especially, and like you said, I mean, we've been communicating back and forth, this way for about 6-7 years now. And so, and like you said, I mean, I cultivate relationships with filmmakers and with actors through that, and so when I see, when somebody sends me a new film that they've been a part of or they've made, it's like, oh, good, I have another thing from them to look forward to. It's right. like if your favorite filmmaker, like Scorsese or Spielberg or whoever, has a new movie coming out, you get excited, and it's like because of the fact that you know what to expect, but at the same time you're not quite sure what to expect. So that's
keep you in suspense.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and you've had Chris Esper. Have you had Chris Esper on the show?
No, he's probably going to be the next person I talk to. I'm looking forward to that one.
And now Chris is another one that and it's funny. I don't know Chris. I mean, Chris and I, we've traded email messages and stuff like that. And just from his output, of of course, not only as a filmmaker, but now he's a successful author. That he is the kind of person that I like to work with, like that, because of course, also aside from the quality of his films, his work is amazing, and just his energy and his enthusiasm, his drive. He loves what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kinds of people that that we had. I mean, and I've been very lucky. I have a long list of people to thank, like Sean Meehan and I, who did Over Coffee and Total Performance and all of that. We've known each other and we're good friends for over 5 years now. Mm-hmm. And the Fitchfork Films guys, love to work with them again. Mark Battle from with Your Lies Joe. These are the guys that they make quality films. They make good films. They tell unique stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's something that I am incredibly proud of, and I know that it's hard to get out there, to get it out to folks like you and Kirk Fernwood over at One Film Fan, and Andrew Buckner at World of Dreams, that again, like I said, even if you don't like the film, at least it's seen, and of course that you three especially are so eloquent in your thoughts on everything. That even if you do find something that you may not, that you may not have been jazzed about, at least that you present it in an eloquent fashion. That, like, well, that's an excellent opinion. So,
Mm-hmm.
again, we're just, for me, over the years, I've just been very appreciative of the opportunity that you take on short films, because a lot of people don't. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of, of course, Here Lies Joe. It's been interesting. It's a 23-minute film, and people have come back and said, like, well, for a short film, it's it's too long, or it's not long enough. So
Yeah.
it's been strange, but you just never know. With sending an email or a message on Twitter, I figure the worst thing anyone could say is no. But thankfully, many of the times, people have said yes, and people have enjoyed the films I've sent. So I'm thankful for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I'm kind of ready to wrap it up. It's been a lot of fun to talk to you. Put a voice to an email after all these years.
Yeah, all of these years. Yeah. Well, and of course, I'll keep plugging away, and I'll keep sending things your way. And of course, for any filmmakers out there, resources like Sonic Cinema are great.
Mm-hmm.
Not only just for the Hollywood films, but for all films. And again, just thank you for being great all of these years.
Oh, no problem. Oh, thank you very much for sending me all of the films you've sent me, and I always enjoy watching them, and I definitely look forward to the ones in the future.
Absolutely, I'll send them as they're ready.
All right, sounds good.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. This has been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to thank Tim once again for appearing on the Sonic Cinema podcast. It was, like I said, it was good to put voice with an email after all these years. And several of his movies include Total Performance, Mail Time, Hellbent, Dirty Books, Socks and Cakes, It's Not You, as well as many, many others. You can search for those reviews on www.sonic-cinema.com. And thank you very much, Tim, once again, and keep the movies coming. And for now, this is Brian Scuttle saying goodbye for the Sonic Cinema podcast. Until next time.